Hello, YouTube. I am Vince White. I am an employment attorney, and we are answering publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. We have a question here from YouTube user Talking with Ree, which is a cool username. And Talking with Ree says, my case was dismissed by the EEOC, so the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, even though I had a substantial amount of evidence proving my claim. The Department of Labor rules in my favor, yet the EEOC ruled against me. Will this have a huge negative impact in finding an attorney or prevailing in court? And I responded in text, so I'll read that as well. If you're not a federal employee, it is somewhat unlikely that the EEOC ruled against you. If you were unrepresented, it's also somewhat unlikely that they ever read any of the evidence from your case, I am afraid. What you probably received is called a right to sue letter, which is what most people receive from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. That letter, the right to sue letter, will allow you to go to federal court and file a discrimination or sexual harassment claim or even a retaliation claim in federal court. But be sure to have your case filed in federal court within 90 days of whenever you received that right to sue letter. And also, there's videos on this channel about taking steps to prove when you received the right to sue letter, because I've seen that be litigated. People claiming that your case is not timely in federal court because you can't prove when you received the letter, and it's potentially over 90 days. Okay, so, and I kind of, on another comment, I said, I will try to create a video about this, but no attorney should view a right to sue letter as a negative thing, and neither will any court. Okay, so I think what Talking with Ree is doing here, if she is not a federal employee, is she is viewing a right to sue letter, which is something she received from the EEOC, as a negative. It is not a negative. It is just a procedural inevitability. If your case does not settle in the EEOC, then it is incredibly likely that you will just receive a right to sue letter, because the EEOC does not really litigate very many cases. I think that it might be less than 1%. I believe it's less than 1% of their cases. I actually think it's less than 0.25% of their cases, but don't quote me on that. So your right to sue letter is not a negative. It's just an inevitability. If your case doesn't settle, you're going to get that right to sue letter, and that will give you access to federal court. Now, do you want to go into federal court? I don't know. I don't know your situation. I don't know if you want to file on a public docket. I don't know if that's where you want to be. I don't know where you are. I don't know what your options are in terms of local venues to have a hearing in an agency. I don't know any of this, right? But the right to sue letter gives you access to federal court. That's all it means. Doesn't mean you have a bad case. Doesn't mean you have a good case. Doesn't mean that turtles can dance sideways on Thursdays. It just doesn't mean anything beyond you can go to federal court. So neither a positive nor a negative, and no attorney should view it as a positive or negative. I can tell you, if you came to me with a right to sue letter and you wanted to go into federal court, the first thing I would ask you is, awesome, let me see the complaint you filed, the position statement, and your rebuttal in the EEOC. And I would review all three of those to see if the way the EEOC was pled makes it viable to go on to federal court. I'm sure yours was. You strike me as a very intelligent human being. But it's something I have to review because a lot of people do a really bad job in the EEOC, and they plead things that the EEOC can't really deal with, or they don't make their case in a viable way. And those documents can impact my ability to go on to federal court and be successful there. Generally not a deal breaker, but it's something I have to review because, it is expensive to litigate these cases as a firm, right? We pour tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes more, sometimes six figures into a given case. And we need to make sure the case is, we need to make sure there's no landmines in the case from the EEOC process, which is why, again, I always say it's ideal to have an attorney for the EEOC process. Now, no court's going to view a right to sue letter as evidence that your case is weak or a negative in any way, and no attorney should. An attorney who does view a right to sue letter as a negative for your case might not be a great attorney to take your case to federal court. Now, I will say I've definitely looked at cases and I've said, oh, that case might have definitely settled in the EEOC if you were represented, but I don't think it's strong enough to go to federal court, which is really just another way of saying like, hey, I can't pour tens of thousands of dollars in this case because it's kind of shaky, right? Something that could go to the EEOC that is a viable claim that is worth money you might struggle to find an attorney to take it to federal court because those attorneys, if they're covering expenses for you, are going to pour huge sums of money and attorney hours into the case in federal court. So that's the only way that a right to sue letter would be negative. But even then, you might still have local agency options or state court options available to you. So nothing about this should be viewed as a negative necessarily. I do think you should be speaking to attorneys. It sounds like you're on a very tight deadline if you received that right to sue letter somewhat recently, and you're going to need to be very active in terms of figuring out if you want this case in federal court, and if you do, hiring an attorney to do that for you. You're not required to have an attorney for federal court, but man, is it a bad idea to be pro se in federal court. I can't even describe how bad of an idea. Talking with Ree, I hope this was helpful. If it was, like and subscribe. It helps me to help more people just like you, and I wish you the best of luck and great success with all of this. And I'm sorry about whatever the underlying events were that led you to litigate this. It sounds like you were wronged, and I hope that you are able to fight back and make those wrongs righted.